Recording started. Great. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another amazing session of DevFest Scotland Online 2024. Thank you to all the people that is joining. Please feel free to leave your questions and your comments in the chat, and Liz will answer them by the end of the session. Uh, Another reminder that this session will be recorded and we will upload it to our YouTube channel for GTG Glasgow. And today I'm super happy to have Liz. She's amazing. She's so enthusiastic and smart. I can't wait to see her presentation today. So welcome, Liz. Thank you so much for coming here and share your knowledge with our community. And yeah, you can begin. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Patty, for that lovely introduction, and welcome everyone. I'm delighted to be here. Although I'm broadcasting today from South Florida, I've lived in the UK a few times. So the Glasgow DevFest has a special place in my heart, and this is just a fabulous group. So I'm honored to be here. Today, I want to talk to you about how I use AI to write better code and actually accelerate my entire development process. First, just a quick word about myself. I was a UX designer. Now I'm a UX engineer or technical prototyper. What I love to do is take ideas from Sketch or whiteboard session and bring them to life on a screen, whether that's web or mobile. And recently, I've just fallen in love with mobile app development, though this is more of a recent chapter in my career. Earlier this year, I published LingoWise, which is a language learning app that I'm going to use today in order for us to have a shared context for the tips to make sense and to fit into the story. But just yesterday, I uploaded Quiz Genie to the App Store. So you see, my productivity with AI is kind of multiplying. And as the AI gets better, I'm just going faster and growing my skills more. So this is what I want to share with you today, how you can do the same. Whoops, skipped a slide there. So when I talk about mobile app development, what I mean is React Native. I was an Angular developer. However, Angular never really gelled with me. I somehow did not find the right instructor or enough libraries to support what I wanted to do. And anyway, long story short, React Native worked out better. And React Native is a modern JavaScript framework that's very, very modular and lends itself well to working with AI because of this component architecture. And I'll get into that in a moment. Now, this is a Google event. So why is ChatGPT 4.0 on the slide? Well, GPT was on the scene about 2 years ago, almost to the day. And I've been using it ever since. In fact, every day I have a layout on my screen that's very much like this. My code's on the left and GPT is on the right. And as I bump into errors or have questions or I'm seeking new packages, I simply talk to my coding partner there and get responses back. And I estimate that I've had about 2,000 plus conversations with GPT in the last 2 years. And I've seen it grow and get better and better. And I'm going to point out a couple of those things. So it's not that I'm so loyal to GPT. It's simply that it's the best AI right now for what I need to do for most use cases. I'm always looking at Gemini, and I'm now beginning to work with Claude a little bit, as I'll share with you in a moment. So in a moment, I'm going to give you a brief demo of LingoWise so we can see where the components are, what is a component, and what I'm really talking about when I go through my 10 tips. React Native and GPT React Native is a popular framework, and that means there are a lot of libraries supporting it. So just about anything you need to do, from sign in to paywall to carousel, there's a library for it. And you can plug this in and adapt it to fit your needs. It's good for web and mobile development. So React Native really saves a lot of time because we don't have separate code bases for iOS, Android, and the web. We have one code base, but we can publish to all three. And as I said before, this is very modular. So when we take a look at the demo now, I want you to bear in mind that where we start is the app entry. You don't have to memorize this. It's just a rough layout. Then there's the gallery, and I'm going to show you that, where you have different packs, language packs to choose from. Also, with this app, you can make your own cards. This is basically flip cards, all built on Google technologies, built on Firebase, Google Cloud Translate, text to speech, speech to text. You'll see all of that in a moment. The thing is, I've prepared some starter packs for those that need a little bit of a helping hand or just want to get started quickly. Then there's the studio entry to the app. And that is where you make your own cards along your interests. Fancy going sailing, fancy going skiing, cooking, specific cuisine, whatever it is that you want to do, you can build your vocabulary cards with native pronunciation and learn the vocabulary for the situation that you're going to be in. Then within the gallery, we have a number of different types of packs. Full packs have more short phrases and vocabulary. Snap packs are laser focused on vocabulary learning. And then user packs, of course, are your packs that you make in the studio. So that should have a little bit more of a direct line there. But anyway, on to the demo. So this is a brief demo, and I'm going to talk over a little bit to help you understand what's going on here. So this is the full pack ribbon that we're looking at right now. And I'm going to show you one of the travel packs, Lingo packs. I don't know if you can hear that, but he says, "Tiene una habitación libre?" Patty could probably pronounce this better. Papa, this is an example of what I call a banner card. This is the phonetic alphabet, and that card had a bit of a different layout. Next, I'm going to show you what I call an image card, where we have country flags, and we're looking for the capital. I didn't know that one. I don't know this one either. But we do know San Jose, right? So in this way, you mark the cards right and wrong, and you work your way through the pack, and eventually, when you feel ready, take a quiz. Here's a quick demo of the studio and how you make your own cards. I'm thinking I lost the Wi-Fi password or never had it in the hotel, so I want to prepare myself when I go to Portugal. And just like that, the server takes a moment to warm up at first, and then you get your translation and your audio clip made dynamically there for you. It appears at the top of your list of your cards. I don't know if you could hear that, but we heard a native Portuguese speaker, a man, pronounce that. So you're listening on the plane on the way over, you're getting this vocabulary in your head, you're hearing the native pronunciation, and you're repeating as often as you please. It's a little bit like, you know, the back of a guidebook where they have all the phrases. Usually I'm ripping those pages out of the book right before the plane leaves because I haven't had a chance to read or study prior to departure. So this way you can just put the app in your pocket and you can do it on the plane. I've had this experience. When I landed, I actually knew about 200 phrases, and it made the whole trip in Lisbon that much better. So there you have it. That's LingoWise. And now I want to do my 10 tips. And we're going to go through these game show style, where we start with number 10 and we work our way up to number 1. Now, I didn't show this for time, but this is a screen from the onboarding experience. There's a few screens at the very beginning when you first install the app, telling you what the app's about and giving you an idea of what you can do. Now, I had seen onboarding packages in some of the tutorials I was doing, but I didn't really have one to plug into my React Native setup. So that's what I asked GPT. And I said, you know, I'd seen one that was really good where you could slide over and you had the little dots at the bottom and you could customize this and make it your own, even put in Lottie animations. He says, the package you're referring to is probably React Native App Intro Slider. And this is very popular, and that carries weight with me because if a lot of developers have installed that and are using it on a weekly basis, I know it's up to date and probably going to work with other dependencies I have installed. Sure enough, if you look over to the right, this one had more than 13,000 weekly downloads. So I had the confidence. Plus, I could see the images, and there's a quick start right below the images. So you can scroll down and get a sense of how easy or not this is to install and set up. It was very easy. And since GPT knew of it, then any questions I had during installation were easily answered. So that's tip number 10, finding packages that are good for what you need to do. Now, it also provided the installation here. So there was one more screen to number 10. You can get detailed step by step. First do this, second do this, and third do this. And I love this because I'm not embarrassed to ask as many questions as I need to when I'm having difficulty, and I can bottom out until I'm really solid and ask about any part of the answers and keep asking without judgment, and just keep going until I feel like I own the information. Okay, here's number 9, and this is why I wanted to show you a brief demo, because things like when you take a pop quiz, okay, you see these dialogues, and the dialogue needs to change depending on whether there are 20 questions available. What if you make a short pack and you only have 10 cards in your pack? You wouldn't want to quiz yourself on 20 questions. It wouldn't make sense. So there was a bit more coding here that meets the eye, perhaps, and I wanted consistent components, my own ones with my design throughout. There are libraries for this, as in tip number 10, but I wasn't happy with them. I wanted to make my own, and I wanted them to blend with the general iOS or Android system as well, material design or iOS UI guidelines. So as a UX designer, I'm very conscious of this, yet I wanted to make my own. So what I did was I asked for this custom dialogue that would adapt to the number of cards or questions possible and give users a choice of what they want to do. And there was another wrinkle, as I recall as well, that said, you know, if they don't have at least 10 cards in their pack, we're not going to offer them a quiz. So we'll just hide the button. And React is really good at that, very good at maintaining state and stateful components, or showing and hiding components depending on the current state. So I got code back, obviously, and I was looking at it in my screen. Another advantage of React Native is that it comes with an app called Expo Go. You can be in a whole managed workflow with Expo and ease build services. That's for another tutorial. But what Expo Go is it's an app you can download from the app stores. It's free. And what you do is you start a local server on your machine. And this app allows you to continually visualize, see your app running on an actual device as you're building it. And that is so cool, because the moment I make a change and hit save, like with my new custom component, I can see what it looks like and how it behaves right there in situ. I don't have to go back and forth between coding and compiling and then transferring to a phone. This is super fast, and your round trips are very quick. Your development cycle is accelerated in this way. So that's why I'm working with GPT and Expo Go at the same time. GPT gives me some code, I copy paste it, hit save, see the result. It's very quick this way, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, while we're talking about component design and the fact that AI is very good at CSS, and it's consistently good across all the AIs, theming might be important to you. I know that I always want light and dark mode. As devs, often we like dark mode. It's easier on the eyes, and it's easier on my battery, frankly, when I'm testing on my mobile phone or on my laptop on the go. So theming is pretty amazing. And recently, I did this with Claude rather than GPT. And there's a very good reason for this. As you can see here, this is a screenshot from Claude I took the other day. And what you can do with Claude is you can upload several files at once to a project. So there's the idea of a project rather than a chat session. In a chat session, you can only upload 5 files in one go. Of course, you can upload more subsequently, but there is another problem, and that is token limits. You're going to get kicked out of Claude if you're using it intensively over a period of time and you have long chats and upload a lot of files in one go. So AI is continually evolving, and we're kind of modifying our approach as it grows to accommodate what the limits are and to still get value out of it. So what I find so valuable here is that I was able to upload a whole bunch of files at once, and I was only using 9% of the capacity available to me. And as you can see on the left, I was asking about responsive design, cross-platform, iOS and Android, and at the same time, later in the chat, I wanted this dark and light theming. So the need was responsive design because my Android device is older and smaller, and what I was working on was going off the screen. So we put in scroll view and did a few other things that to me were magic, and a lot of education and learning took place in that. And this is an example of what took place. I'm going to be a bit more specific. I put a card in there, and I wanted to refactor this component, preserving the structure and the logic that I had there, but adding light and dark theme to it. And there were some platform specific things as well that you can sort of pick out of this screenshot. Again, rather than going into detail about exactly what I did, I wanted to share the idea that if you upload a group of files at once and say that you want light and dark mode and tell it what your primary, secondary, warning, danger colors are, it will build out the theme for you. It even went so far as to give me subtle shadows in dark mode. They were kind of ugly, and I said, let's just take them off. And it said, I saw in the chat, oh, no. We can make this more subtle and visually appealing. Let me change it when it's in dark mode and see if you like that. So again, I saved, checked on my phone, liked it. We styled an entire app in about 15 minutes. That never would have happened before with my doing CSS manually. Okay, and this was the result. And there's a switch. If you look in the far right in the settings page, there's a switch here for light and dark themes. So that's kind of fun to use in the app. Okay, tip number 7. Eventually, if this is going to be your main vocation, you need to charge for your work. And subscriptions are common practice in mobile development. And I had found a terrific tutorial for Revenue Cat and in-store subscription with Google Play and the Apple App Store. The thing is that the video I found was using TypeScript. And now I want to assure the audience here today that I am also using TypeScript 100% of the time. LingoWise was one of my very first apps. It was kind of an ambitious project for a first app. And I was more comfortable with JavaScript than I was with TypeScript. So it does not hurt to get started. I am going to refactor, but at the time that I put this together, and at the present moment, it's still in JavaScript. That's the next project, is to refactor into TypeScript. So Sunny Sangha here has a terrific series of video tutorials. He even shared the code on GitHub as I'm showing. And I needed to get this fabulous block of code into JavaScript from TypeScript. Let's just take a look at what it does. I'm not sure if you can hear this. So that's the point. So I don't know if you could hear that or not, but he was showing how you can lock certain features, add a paywall, When you click the button on the paywall, you're in the revenue cap flow. And here's the code for that. And again, the specifics are not as important as the ability to refactor, right? So I had certain code blocks that were a little bit challenging for me because I didn't know TypeScript at the time. So GPT helped me refactor and explained what he did. Okay. And if you have any bugs along the way, so there was another point to this payment. Of course, if you are submitting your payment, you need an account. In order to have an account, the system needs to know who you are. So we have to have sign in. We have to have login. And I don't know about the other developers out there, but sign in always seems to give me troubles. It's just one of those things where sign in with Apple, social sign in, sign in with Google, sign in with LinkedIn. And then there's nuances to password and username as well. I want to avoid that in future apps. So now I'm doing social sign in. But the point is, the package I was using for authentication just was throwing so many errors. And so I didn't know how to cope with these. I didn't even know what they meant. So one thing I've gotten in the habit of doing that's been really helpful is I will take a screenshot and I will drag and drop that right on my AI, either Claude or GPT, and ask to understand what it is telling me so I can learn and avoid this in the future. So please help me understand what this bug is. That's something I'm often asking for. And I always kind of preface this by saying, I'm in a managed workflow. I don't want to eject. Eject means doing native development like we used to do, where you're running Android Studio or Xcode, and there's a lot more complication involved. I want to maintain my managed workflow. That's an advantage of working with React Native. And please just tell me what I need to do. And he says, well, you don't have all the correct packages installed. Here's what you need to do. Go ahead and install this, and then we'll go from there. Tip number 5. Here's where things really get interesting. At one point in my LingoWise app where I showed you, there are 3 different kinds of cards. There's what I call a Lingo card, which has the native pronunciation and is in foreign languages, 1 of 20. Then we have banner cards like I tried to show with the phonetic alphabet. The banner's just draped over in my head. That's why it's called a banner card. And the color is randomized, so it's different every time and adds a splash of color and some visual appeal. And then we saw also the flags, and I call those image cards. Well, at one point, now I know many of you are going to laugh out there, but please bear in mind, this was one of my first apps. I had a very complicated if-then series of statements to handle all these different use cases. And I was talking to GPT about it one day. And he said, there's a better way to do this. When you take a pack, or when you start at the top of your stack of screens, before we dive into this particular pack, what we should have is a deck manager. A deck is a synonym in American slang for a pack, okay? So the deck manager takes a look at what kind of card we're going to need and passes the right properties to it. And then we don't need all of these if-then statements. So it's a layer, sort of a middleware, that sits between the gallery that we saw before when you're selecting your pack and the type of card that the pack needs to render, if that makes sense. And we can eliminate a whole bunch of if-then statements by just letting the deck manager do the work. Call up the right data with the right component. And so this is what we got. We got a complete new middle manager component that would handle the different types of cards and pass all of the properties to it. And I just loved this original idea. I did not prompt this. I was not looking for this, but I was looking for a better way of working, a faster performance in my app. And going forward, I just thought this is not the right way if we want to scale the app. And indeed, it was not. Coming in at number 4 is one of my favorite topics, translation. It turns out that large language models are extremely good at this, but they do need context and they do need some human intervention. So at LingoWise, we look at all the translations we get, and we have a certain situation in mind, like going to the market or renting a car. And if the particular translation that came out does not fit, we correct it. So there's some hand editing after the initial translation. But that initial translation is saving me from going to a translation agency. So here's how I generated some of the pre-made packs. I said to the AI, and this is on Google now, give me the top 30 vocabulary words for sunfish sailing, something I wanted to do. Be sure to include the definite article. That's the, right, in English? So I can learn the gender of each noun, because in some languages it changes, not in English, but in German, French, Spanish, we have this notion of gender, and the definite article will change according to whether it's masculine or feminine, and in some languages neuter, and there might even be more cases in Russian, I don't know. I doubt there are more genders, there are more cases. But German has a concept of neuter as well, and we won't get into that today. However, I need, when I'm language learning, to memorize to myself, der Mann, die Frau. I'm speaking German now, and I'm putting the definite article in front of the noun so that I memorize it that way, because later, when you're speaking to somebody, that's going to become important, or they might be laughing at you. They'll be glad you tried, but it's important to learn the genders along with the nouns. So with a little bit of extra prompting, I did get that, as you can see in the right-hand column. But it's not only the translation I want to share with you today, it's also the output. You can actually have AI transform your data into an output you need for your project. So I asked for the translations to be output in CSV format rather than tabular or table format. Table's good for display when you're looking at Claude or you're looking at GPT. It's not so good when I was building LingoWise. So what I'm doing is taking a CSV, and I've written a few scripts behind the scenes that format that in such a way that I've automated the upload to Firebase and Firestore. And that's where the data is being pulled in from as you're seeing it. So the first step is to get the translations. Second step is to get it in the right format. And third step is to upload to Firestore. So here's the CSV format. And I'd just like to give you a little side tip here. When you get something in CSV, GPT will give it to you to download, okay? You download that to your machine and you simply import it into something like a Google Sheet. And the Google Sheet will load up your cursor, and you'll click in a cell, and you'll see the first couple words of this appear. But don't leave it there. Right away, right-click, and then click, I think it's spread or fill to columns, and you'll get it all back the way we saw it before. If you hit fill to columns or distribute to columns, I forget what the exact wording is, but if you right-click when you have that loaded up on your cursor, it will go and spread it out just this way once again. So that's very handy. And I do operate in Google Sheets. Then I have scripts, as I said before, and this all goes up to Firestore. Okay, speaking of Firestore, one of my favorite things to do with GPT is to show it my database setup, okay? So in Firestore, if you're not using it, we have this notion of collections or buckets. And then we have this notion of documents. And documents can have fields, as we see here, but it's a very horizontal, flat database, and they alternate. So you have bucket, collection, documents, collection, documents, collection, documents. And it can be quite nested, quite deep. And all you have to do is outline this structure to GPT, and you will get the necessary code to do CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. Even better, you can strategize with Claude and GPT about whether your database is going, your setup, your organization is going to meet your needs as you grow. It was interesting, just this week, I've done this with Claude, and we rejigged how we were working with Quiz Genie and saving the data so that we can bring quiz data back in future in a lighter and quicker way, and that will save cost on the back end. Now, I'm a front-end developer, remember, so I don't know all of these nuances or strategies for optimizing cost, minimizing cost, maximizing speed. And this is something I'm learning from Claude. So I think this is really exciting. And as I mentioned before, I had a few bumps in the road when setting this up for the first time for my app, and actually got some great tips from the Firebase team itself. I met a few people from the Firebase team at a conference. And so I got some great in-person as well as AI tips. And now things are working swimmingly. We don't have problems like this one any longer. Okay, last but not least, my number one tip for using AI to accelerate your productivity and grow your skills, this one is a tip that is something that AI can do that the naked eye cannot. And that is parse a very complex JSON array for a very specific purpose. Let me share this with you. This is a quick demo of Cheerlights. If you don't know, Cheerlights is a worldwide IoT project where you select a light, and you can actually do this. The link under this video I'm going to play, it's only 30 seconds. This link is to my portfolio online. And you, as I'm talking right now, can actually change the color of the lights in the cheer lights behind me. Right now, they're magenta, and somebody out there is going to change them while I'm speaking. But in order to make this work, and my interface work, where you pick a color and it changes every cheer light in the world that is subscribing to this channel, the ThingSpeak channel, I have a link for it. Anyway, without all the explanation, what I think is better is a demo, which is why I put this in here. Take a look. Here we are on that portfolio page I mentioned, and I've selected a new color, magenta it looks like. So it takes a moment to send this to the server, the ThingSpeak channel, and then we get the animation, which I did in After Effects and Adobe Illustrator. So I drew all of this. And there I changed to cyan, okay? So that's what you should be seeing on the website if you go there. Now, let me show you why AI was so invaluable. So as I mentioned before, we have an MQTT broker in the middle called Cheerlights. And it used to be that when you would tweet a color like #orange at Cheerlights, then all the lamps would actually turn orange, okay? Today, I'm doing that with the interface in my portfolio rather than tweeting. And here's how I made the lamp work. So this is why I needed AI. This is not an aside. I know it feels like I'm talking about something separate now, but I'm not. First, I created the illustrations, and I had certain things that I wanted to turn the current color, specifically the bulb, the ring on the side, and the shadow underneath the bulb. I wanted to animate all of this in After Effects, and there's a body move and plugin to generate the JSON data that you need to make this work on the web. Then on the web, we use something called Lottie Player to play the animation on an HTML page. And this plugin that you need for After Effects is right here if you're interested. So here's the output from data.json from body moving. I think now that maybe you can see what I'm trying to say. If I want to get a hold of, in JavaScript now, on the web, if I want to get a hold of the bulb to determine the color that it displays and make it be in sync with the current color, I have to be able to target it. And I could not find it. I had thousands and thousands lines of dense JSON data. This, trying to read this, is like a doctor trying to read an X-ray, searching for some type of obscure cancer. It's actually easier and faster with AI, something humans cannot do very quickly. So we also had a discussion about targeting colors and changing their value, because it turns out that in this situation, it was not RGB or CMYK or HLS or anything we as web devs, it wasn't hexadecimal, it wasn't anything a web dev was familiar with. So we had quite a long discussion, and I still didn't understand it, to be honest with you. So what I did was I asked GPT to make a lookup table. And in the JavaScript code, there's standard colors that TrueLights works with. There's about 14 of them altogether. And these standard colors are then translated into what the JSON will respond to, or what Lottie, the player, will actually understand. So in my setup, I got this translation from GPT and was able to make my project work by targeting the right items and setting them to the right colors. So that's it. We hit my 10 tips pretty well today. And I just wanted to leave you, before we take some questions, with several resources that I think will be really valuable for you. Number one, just today, as it happens, Vadim launched the React Native Mastery course. I'm in that course right now, and I can tell you it's phenomenal. So I encourage you to use the QR code here at the right, get your 20% off today, and join me in that course, because it takes you from zero to mastery, and I can vouch for it. It starts with a very basic JavaScript project. There are 7 projects. It's project-based learning. It's phenomenal. And my Quiz Genie project grew from module number 2, where Vadim uses a quiz to show you how to pass data through components in a React Native application. He's one of the best teachers I've ever encountered. And this is really valuable learning. And the reason that I'm using React Native now, he's one of the reasons, as opposed to Angular or other frameworks. 2 other great resources that focus more on React and web dev. Sean Pelling with netninja.dev. Sean is great if you just need to dive into TypeScript, for example, or React and get a basic education. That's what I did. I took the React course, and then React Native builds upon React. So you're not thrown by things like destructuring or components. React is really a good preliminary course to take, but you don't have to. You can dive right in with Vadim and you'll be fine. And then I showed a video clip from Sunny Sangha with papareact.com. He focuses on full stack development, mostly for the web. Occasionally he does mobile tutorials as well. But he's excellent. I participated in a hackathon with him this summer, and the outcome was that I did pretty well in the hackathon and learned how to make a SaaS app, a software as a service. And that was the genesis, along with that module from Vadim, of Quiz Genie online. So there you have it. 2 apps in the App Store and going strong. So I wonder now, I want to stop sharing, and I'd like to hear, how do you use AI in your everyday work?
Right. If someone would like to be part of the discussion, please let me know, and I can make you a presenter as well, and you can jump into the stage. Let's see if someone is brave enough to join us. In the meantime, let's see, Sentil here. He wants to join. You can unmute yourself.
Oh, hi, Liz.
Hi.
It's wonderful presentation. Thank you for that. What I would like to ask you is how do you handle hallucination? As I understand, AI, when it does not know the correct answer to it, it hallucinate and give incorrect answers. So especially in terms of translation, when you are not the native speaker, how do you validate whether it is a right output or not before you pull the app?
Okay, that's a great question. So there's a couple questions in there. I want to address both hallucination and translation, but maybe separately.
Sure.
With translation, I speak a number of languages, but of course I can't be super fluent in all of them, right? So for Spanish, I would go to Patty or someone who is a native speaker. That's my point. I hate to disappoint you there. It's very difficult to manage context, and that's the key to managing hallucinations as well. What I mean by that is you might have a better experience now that AI is maturing a bit if you preface your request for translation with a situation or scenario. So, for example, let me say to AI, imagine we're on a train. We're traveling and I want to practice my Spanish. Okay? We get on the train at the same time, we're in the same compartment. I want to have a brief conversation with you. Please, you go first. I've had GPT actually say to me, well, he said it in German, na, wohin fährst du denn? So, where are we going? Because I wanted to test in German. That's a language I'm fluent in.
Ah,
So the first thing that he said, he didn't skip a beat and just said to me right away, na, wohin fährst? Where are you going? So I said, Salzburg. Oh, Salzburg. Was für eine schöne Stadt. Have you been there before? Again, getting me to speak. I said, no, I've not been there before. Purposely, I have been, but
yeah.
So he gave me the top things to see, and then I could ask questions, and that was the gist of our short conversation. So what I'm trying to say to you is a little bit of context goes a long way, okay? But yes, in a professional production environment, I run my translations by native speakers to make sure that they're appropriate for the travel situation or the situation that the pack advertises, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, the second part to your question about hallucination, again, it comes down to context. And this was another thing I wanted to mention about GPT. Recently, GPT has made better use of memory. And this is nothing short of incredible because memory means that when you reprompt, you don't get what you want and you say, no, that's not what I wanted. What I meant was, and you clarify the request. What I've seen GPT do is commit that to memory. You can see it going round. It takes a pause and it says updating memory. I looked in the memory. It's in settings, personal, and then you find it in memory. So it's keeping, I don't know how many, maybe the last 50 things that I said. And then every once in a while it fills up and it prompts you to dump your memory. Don't do that if you want to maintain the context. So what I do is I try to maintain that memory for the duration of a project or the duration of a problem, let's say authentication. I try to get all my authentication done within that space or with those prompts. And then I find that I get really point on, spot on responses.
Okay.
Because the memory lasts between sessions. If I didn't say that already, that's what I'm getting at. The memory transcends sessions. So you don't start over each day.
Got it. Yes. So that's the context window. That's what they say, isn't it? I mean, like
memory is extending the context window. Yes.
Okay. All right. There are not a lot of technical jargon there.
Yes. Yes. What it is, it's just like human memory. You have a history together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Short aside, this is a separate talk, but I passed a coding interview recently, having not been able to do so prior, because I took 2 weeks to practice with GPT.
Okay.
And something I had to prompt with a lot was, I want common coding questions for a UX engineer phone screen. That's the context.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want you to give me the answer. So it gave me the problem and it spit out the answer. So I wouldn't look, I would stop scrolling and I would be like, no. I said, I did not want the answer. You screwed up.
Mhm.
So this is all in my history, but he translates me too. Like you'll never see the word, oh, you screwed up, or other choice words that I may have used when I got frustrated. He would just like say, user wants just the problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then in this way, I would say, oh, no, no, no. I just asked for a hint. I didn't want you to solve it. I just asked for a hint. I know you're good. I'm trying to get better. And so I have fun with it like this. I know that I anthropomorphize a little bit too much. These are machines, they're not people. But it's amazing. I think it's amazing how much I learned by practicing common problems. And I did not get that problem on the day. But just to wrap this answer up, on the day, I was so much more confident. I knew strategies for how to attack different types of problems. I did not get rattled, even though it was nothing I expected. The question was completely different. I didn't get rattled. I hung in, and I actually had a really good dialogue with my interviewer because I had been dialoguing with GPT all along.
Mhm. All right.
That is so interesting. I love it. This is really such a good anecdote. And so you will say that it actually helped you to learn,
Yes,
not
absolutely.
to take the shortcut, not to trick the interviewer. You actually learn.
Yep, that's a really important point, Patty, because another thing is, I guess what I demoed today was a bit of giving you like solving problems. You might think after today's presentation that I just use GPT to fill gaps or solve problems, and I'm just practical and I just want to get the app done and I just want to get into the store. But no, actually, the more you learn, the more interesting this becomes. And it is more efficient if you actually learn solutions to common things that you do every day, like building components, and the components form an app, and the app forms part of your system, and working with Firebase and so on. So you do want to learn why certain things are done. It just gets to be a bit much to learn all at once.
Right.
So take a piece and master it.
It's amazing. I love it. Do you
Yeah.
have any other questions, Sentil? Sorry, I interrupt your conversation, but it's just that I found so amazing
No,
that.
indeed. I mean, like, I was going to answer the other question, which Liz opened the forum is like, how do you use AI? So this is one of the things that I use. For instance, if I want to convince my manager on a particular strategic problem or how do I do it, I use AI to brainstorm it. So it'll ask him to ask AI to act like a manager and ask me tough questions, and then I would just go ahead and answer. And if I'm not able to answer, can you give me an alternative way to how do I convince it? So that sort of brainstorming is what I do. Um, yeah, in terms of using AI at my work.
That's terrific. Before I go to the manager, I want to prepare, and this is what I'm thinking. And I bet that it can get you to think of things in that chat that you didn't think of before,
Absolutely. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
crystallize your ideas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. If I'm proposing a solution, so what? So what's the problem? So what if I'm not doing this? If I'm not giving the solution, how is going to help the our customer or something like that? I mean, like that's how I used to brainstorm with the AI.
That's terrific. I love it.
Okay.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining and asking your questions. And I mean, Liz, this was amazing. A lot of people were playing with the lights, and I could see the light, changing the back. And I was like, playing with it. Everyone was playing with it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it works!" It's so cool, honestly. Thank you so much again for being here. This was a very uplifting presentation. I loved it from the beginning to the very end.
Oh
So
my, thank you, Patty. It was a delight to be here. I am so glad to be with you today. And your event has just been fantastic. As I said before, I look forward to joining you in person. This is
the
just
next
a
year.
terrific group you have in Scotland there.
Thank
So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for viewing, for watching, everybody. And I look forward to the next one.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. We still have a couple of more sessions this week and a couple of more sessions next week. online sessions. And we hope to see you around. And again, thank you, Liz. We will see you in Scotland next year for sure. And well, I hope that the rest of you have a good night and wait for this episode to be up in our YouTube channel. Bye bye. Thank you.